because it is very straightforward. It is just telling people what you do. You don't tell people what you do not do, you just tell people what you do. But one of the problems we see often is that the students usually leave out some information because they assume the reader knows exactly what they know. Okay, I'll give you 1 minute to actually take the QR code for the students. Okay. Now the contents. I will talk about the writing style. I will talk about the abstract, introduction, literature review, methodology, results and discussion, conclusions for the work. If you see, this is actually the same structure you will have when you are actually writing your report. And at the end, I will also talk about the general mistakes the students do, which I found during the ENT 650 class. Writing style. Okay. When we write, we actually giving information to people, right? And you want the reader to understand what you're trying to say, what you're trying to tell them. So it is very important that we give answers, but do not create questions. So we don't we don't have any ambiguities. What do you mean by ambiguities? Ambiguities is when you use the terms that's relevant. For example, you see very accurate, or very good, or very cheap, or cheap. What is very good, what is accurate, or what's cheap is relative. For example, if you're talking about control system, if you're talking about the control of a cannon to shoot, the error of 1 degree is actually quite big. But if you are designing something else that do not need high accuracy, 5 degrees may still be okay, 10 degrees may still be okay. So everything is relative. So you cannot create this ambiguity, you have to state the values. Secondly, do not make the reader turn the pages. When you are referring to a diagram or figures, it has to be on the same page as the text, such that it's easier for the reader to actually refer to whatever you're referring to in the text. Do not make them turn the pages. For example, you said in figure so and so, but the figure is actually a few pages away. That is actually very bad. And then the use of simple English. People will not what I call this, people will not be in awe if you use bombastic words. But it will actually do the opposite. It will make it difficult for people to understand. So use simple, plain English. Use simple terms that people understand. Then another one is short sentences. Students tend to write very, very long sentences because they are trying to cram everything in one sentence. But actually, that is not a good practice. What you need to do is use very short sentences. In every sentence, you're talking only about one thing. In one paragraph, you're only talking about one subject. Do not talk about a few things in one sentence. And keep it formal. There's no reference to self. You don't pronounce. Don't say I, we, me. Okay. And the use of visual aids, it must be clear and large enough for the reader to see. Whether it's tables, figures, diagrams, plots, please use, make it as big as possible. Okay. But at the same time, do not do it too big that you change the format. For example, the layout. For example, you are using the portrait layout. In the next page, because you want to provide a very big diagram, you change it to landscape layout. If possible, avoid that. Facilitate the reader to understand. The first one is repetition. Facilitate the reader to understand. That means the flow of information must be good, such that it helps the reader to understand what you're trying to say. do not jump from one topic to another in the same sentence or in the same paragraph. Must have reference results from experimentations. You must have proper numbering. Use different numbering section styles for the chapters. For example, you are listing something down. Your chapters is you're using Arabic numbers, right? It's 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 2.1, and so. But when you are, for example, you are listing something, you must use a different number. For example, you say three things that is needed for so and so. You write 1 to 1.1. You cannot use that. You have to use a different number. If your chapters are using numbers, then the numbering for the list should be, for example, Roman numbers or A, B, C, and so on. You cannot use the same numbering system, or it will confuse the readers. And another thing is, do not list what you want in a paragraph. It must be in bulleted styles, but like I said, in the item above, do not use the same numbering. Always provide the names of variables used in questions. Don't worry about this. If you do not understand any of this, I will have some examples later. Okay, abstract. Just now we were talking about the general structure or writing styles, okay? But now we will actually go into the specific sections, the abstract, introduction, literature review, and so on. Usually, abstract and the conclusions, abstract, chapter 1, and the last chapter, which is the conclusions, will be written last, okay? And that's abstract shouldn't be more than a page. It is one paragraph, and it should not be more than a page. You only state salient points, the most important points, and generalize the statements as if you can. And the structure, it must have these 5 things: intro to the area, problem statement, proposal, what you're planning to do, the methodology, and results and conclusions. However, if you are not trying to solve a problem, but you are trying to show a new way of doing things, so your problem statement may be your hypothesis. And like I said before, it's usually written last. Any questions so far? Ada? Okay, we'll go into the introduction, chapter 1. Chapter 1 is usually the introduction, and you give the introduction to the work. When we say the introduction to the work, you also give the introduction to the thesis or to the report, how the report will be structured, okay? And you will state the objectives, which are the goals, but you have to remember, objectives are not methodology. Objectives are what you're trying to achieve. For example, if your objective is to go to Kanga from Pau, you can either go using a taxi, or Grab, or you can drive, or you can cycle, and so on. So, if on the way to Kanga, you meet an obstacle, for example, there was a roadblock, or there's a flooding, and you have to change to a different route, that is reflective of what objectives is. The goal is still going to Kanga, but the way you go to Kanga may be different depending on circumstances. Okay, so the objective do not change. So in our research, when we say objectives, it is actually the goal, and our methodology may be the way we go about achieving the goals. Okay, it also must have problem statements. What are problem statements? Problem statements are usually the motivation why you do the research. For example, you're trying to solve something. You're trying to provide a solution for something. So that will be the problem statement. Hypothesis is what you think the results will be from the already known knowledge. Then you will talk about the structure of the thesis, And like I said before, it's written last along with chapter 5 as well as the abstract. Now I'm going to chapter 2. If you have any questions, please stop me, okay? Just ask, just on your microphone and ask. Okay, chapter 2 is the literature review. Okay, before I go on to this, I would like to say that many students, sometimes in chapter 3, where you discuss the methodology, they still talk about a new topic, a new subject, and so on. You see, everything that you read, everything, the knowledge that you read prior to your work, that means before you start your work, it has to be in chapter 2. It has to be in literature. All the, what do you call this, theory, all the knowledge must be in chapter 2. What you discuss in chapter 3 later will totally be only what you do. Okay? Sometimes the students will want to explain something in chapter 3, why they do the methodology, why they choose this methodology, why do they choose this method, and why do they choose this approach. The reasons why has to be written in chapter 2, not in chapter 3. Chapter 3 is only for you to discuss what you do. So in chapter 2, it has to be the report that what has been published in the general areas and the specific areas. Now, you see, you reporting of what you have read, it is what it is, a report. That is why the first one reports. Okay? But after you have stated what you have read, you must also then tell the reader what is your observation. For example, you are doing work on artificial intelligence. You'll be saying this person did what, this person did what, this person is what, this report reports on what, and so on. But then you must then have state your observation. What have you found? Usually, this will talk about the trends, what has been focused by the researchers, what is not focused by the researchers, and so on. And finally, you will come to the conclusions. What are the conclusions? Usually, the conclusions in literature review, usually it is the research gap. What is the research gap? Research gap usually refers to the things that has not been done, that's not been focused, or some things that you propose to do, so something new that you propose to do, okay, that has not been done by others, or something that you propose to improve upon what has been done. And finally, you should summarize what you report in chapter 2. Tabulated form is the easiest. What is tabulated form? That means you put in a table. For the literature review, usually the way we do it, initially we'll talk about the body of text, reporting what you have been found from the published works. Then your observations. Then these observations should be your views, what you think, and it should actually focus down to the conclusions as the foundation to the methodology. What it means, this final part, the conclusions as the foundation to the methodology, it means that what you are trying to do, what you will report in chapter 3, does not come from thin air, but is actually a conclusion after you have read what you're supposed to do. Okay? So if you do this, the reader will not question why and how you choose the methodology that you do, why you choose that methodology, and so on. Any questions so far? Anas, okay tak Anas? Hello? Semua orang ada lagi ke?
Ada, sir.
Okay, okay. Because I need some feedback. Okay. Any questions so far? Ada soalan tak? Any questions so far?
So far tak ada, sir.
Okay, I'll continue, okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, we talk about methodology. Like I said before, in methodology, you should only discuss what you do. So there's no more new terminologies, there's no more literature review, there's no more theories. Everything should have been stated in chapter 2. Chapter 3 is purely for the methodology. You need to describe step-by-step work performed that's conducted by yourself. Okay? And it's only on the work that you do. And include even the work performed that was not successful, because you need to report what works and what does not work. Why is it important for you to report what does not work? It's because you want people not to repeat the same mistakes. Okay. For chapter 4 on results and discussions. By the way, I think Anas jaga FYP ke Marni? I think in the template for chapter 4, it's written result and discussion. It should be changed to results and discussions. Okay, put an S there. Okay, in chapter 4, you discuss the results obtained. This is where it's very important for you to actually refer to the diagrams or the tables, so all the results on the same page as discussion. If your results are so many, you have so many results, you may not need to actually present everything on the same in the chapter. You may choose the most relevant ones to be in the chapter in chapter 4, and the rest of it put in the appendices. You can compare to the published works in the discussions. You can show your results. You can show the results obtained by other works that you have found in the literature review. Yes, you can compare them. Like I said, figures and tables must be on the same page as the discussions. And also include results of failed experiments. Present only certain results in a body of text, and other repetitive results should be placed in the appendices. And after that, we talk about the conclusions. You see, in chapter 4, you discuss the results that you get. You don't conclude yet, because why? Because when you want to conclude, you must refer back to the objectives, because your objectives are your goal. So why did I say just now you must write abstract chapter 1 and chapter 5 last? It's because only then can you structure chapter 1 and structure chapter 5 such that chapter 5 answers whatever the discussions or the planned work that has been presented in chapter 1. Because you need to discuss the objectives one by one. If you have 3 objectives, there must at least be 3 paragraphs discussing those. Okay, and must be the outcome of what has been learned. It is no longer discussions of the results, but what can be concluded from the results. And it should also include further works. You see, sometimes when you do your work, there can be some limitations. For example, limitation of budget. You're supposed to use something that's very good. You cannot, because of limitations in budget, you use something as a replacement. So, in the conclusions chapter, in further works, you should state this. Maybe if somebody else wants to repeat the work, they may actually use something that's better. Or you want to propose the extension of the work. For example, you've done A, B, C, and D. And in the further work, you may suggest for people to do E, F, and G, and so on. References must be referred. and you have to follow the convention dictated by the publisher. Um, I will go through the general mistakes made by the students, and this is actually the postgraduate students, not the undergraduate students, but I think the students can learn a bit from this. After this, I will show you some of the examples. The general mistake the students make, one is the introduction is not clear. This is actually referring to the abstract. Usually, students go straight into the specific study area with the relevant information about their general area. This is actually quite important because for you to be able to make this reader appreciate your work, you must actually give a perspective of your work in terms of the general area. Then they will see where you are coming from. They can see the motivation. Another thing is one of the issues with the students is the problem statement is not clear. Sometimes they will say they will do this, they want to do that, but they do not say why they do this, they do that, and what is actually the goal. Another thing is strong claims. You cannot say this is very good, this is very accurate, and such, because everything is relative. Let the reader decide whether it is substantial or not substantial. No proper flow. The idea subjects do not follow any specific flow and disconnect. This is another thing. To be able to make the reader appreciate what you write and to be able to follow what you write, there must be a certain flow of ideas. That is why whenever you write, each paragraph should only be reserved for one topic or one subject matter. For example, you're talking about a car. If you're talking about the engine, it should be one paragraph at least. You're talking about the chassis, it should be one paragraph at least. You cannot have in one paragraph, you talk about the chassis, you talk about the design, and you talk about the safety, and so on. You have to actually have only one subject matter for the paragraph. This is the most common English language, grammar. That is why it is much better for you to actually stick to short sentences. If you use short sentences, the chances of you making grammatical mistakes will be less. Okay? That is why the next one is actually the sentences are too long. Another problem with the sentences that are too long, by the time when the reader reads your report, by the time they reach the end of the sentence, they would have forgotten what was the first part of the sentence was about. Okay? That is why if you have so many things to write, so many things to say, break it up into several sentences. And if it's referring to different topics, subject matter, then break it up into different paragraphs altogether. Another thing is repetitions. In one sentence, there should only be the word should only appear once. Okay? And then the use of colloquial terms and phrases. Colloquial means bahasa pasar, the terms used during talking with your friends and so on. The language you need to use for technical writing, it must be formal. That is why I was saying just now there should not be any pronoun. You cannot say I, me, we. Okay. And many students, the way they write, they will write as though they are actually talking to a friend. You need to formalize that. You cannot use colloquial terms or phrases. And then the use of wrong linking words. What is linking words? Linking words is words such as therefore, hence, what else? By the way, those words it's not that you cannot use. I would suggest that you do not use, because most of the students use the wrong word when they're trying to say something. Okay? Another is no conclusions. I would like to show you some of the examples. This is one of the examples of citations. There are two ways for you to be able to cite. I'll enlarge this. This is the most common way you cite it at the end of the sentence. Okay, this is the common way. Another way is when they are actually part of the subject. You see, this was supported by Su et al. 2011 and Du et al. 2007, where they conducted and so on and so on. So this kind of way, only you put those the year in brackets. The first method is actually like this. You can see the difference. This is the normal one. But if they are actually in the text, you are referring to them in the text like this, then it should be written as such. Now we're talking about the colloquial terms. You see, this one. Sorry. This one. However, there are no serious investigations on the image reconstruction for the RTI system so far. So far, at the end there, it's very colloquial. It's like you're talking to your friend. So this, you cannot do. You should say, however, at present, there are no serious investigations on the image reconstruction for the RTI system. This term, the phrase so far, is a colloquial term, and usually we do not use colloquial terms in technical report. Okay, figures too small. I would like to show this. Can you see the width of the page? The width of the page is from here to here. And this diagram, if you refer to this, the text here on the diagram, and the text in the what do you call this, in the body text, you'll see this very, very small, and it will be very difficult for the reader to read. Another one is this. You see these legends, it will be too small for the people to read. What you need to do is you need to enlarge this so that it covers the whole page, okay? This is a good example of a good sized one, okay? Where they use the width of the page, okay? Okay. This is the example for generic terms. Too generic, does not relate to performance parameter measurements. They said poor performance, high cost, poor performance. This is all relative because you do not state the performance parameter. For example, what is the performance parameter? For example, you talk about accuracy, how accurate the system is. Is it 90%, 91%, 92%, or whatever? So when you talk about poor performance, it's actually very generic, and it's very difficult for the reader to relate what is poor performance, what is good performance, and what is very good performance. Okay. Now we look at the some of the examples for the sentences that's too long. The first one, some of these challenges include the recognition of poorly illuminated surfaces, recognition under post variations, and the challenge of capturing sufficient training data to enable recognition under post challenge. There's a few things here. One, the sentence is very long. Secondly, if you see under post here, under post here, you are now having two same phrases in the same sentence. Okay, this sentence is actually too long. You can actually break it up into a few sentences. For example, there are several challenges, and the first is recognition of poorly illuminated surfaces. Then full stop. Then you can say the second challenge is the recognition under post variations, and the third challenge will be the capturing of the sufficient training data to enable recognition under post-challenge changes. So these three can be broken up into three. I'll do it now. So challenges include recognition officers. You can stop. Next, second challenge is recognition under force variations. The third challenge is, so you see that can be broken up into three sentences. Here as well. Here, what the author did, not only that the sentence is long, but it also lists down a few things. For example, following recent trends in replacing traditional face recognition algorithms with the effective use of deep convolutional neural networks. The research used popular networks, LSNet in RGB based on recognition and proposes. This is very long. You should break it up into a few sentences. Okay. I think we'll go to the last one. Okay. There's another one. This one, you see the sentence here. Further multivariate logistic regression analysis conducted for both lane changing and turning at intersections reveals several significant variables that influence the use of turn signals among the motorcyclists, particularly riders who were female, carrying pillion, performing right turns, and traveling at dawn, dusk, night, and so on. You see, this can be broken up into a few sentences. For example, the first one, you talk about this. Okay. Then you can say what are those? Then you can choose some of the variables that influence the use of the signal among others. Then you can use these others as well. You see, because they are actually listing a few things. Particularly this female, one female, second carrying a pillion, third performing right turns, and the fourth traveling at dawn, dusk, night, and during the day. There's another 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's too many things. Okay. Now, any questions, please? Mabni?
Yes. How to make objective sentence, because sometimes this one cannot be objective, this one can be objective.
Objectives are the goals. For example, I'll show you an example. That's
some said objectives must be can be measured.
Objectives must be able to, you must be able to measure the objectives. If not, then how would you determine whether the objectives have been achieved? Understand? But objectives are goals. It's not methodology. For example, let's take an example. Let's say we want to develop a robot that's able to perform sanitization. For example, now with the current COVID-19, you want to develop a robot that is able to perform sanitization. So what can be the objectives? Your objective may be to develop an autonomous mobile robot that is able to sanitize the hospital wards.
Prof, you're not presenting.
Sorry. Aduh. Okay. Can see? Money.
Can see.
Money? Can see, yeah? Okay, to develop an autonomous mobile robot. Maybe that is the, what to call this, the main objective. If you want to break it up into a few, what to call this, to break it up into more, then you can say, this one can be the second one. You can say the first one will be to autonomous mobile robot platform that is able to function in a human in human environment, and to develop sanitization mobile sanitization unit for hospital wards. Okay. Then you can use SWMB3 to, sorry, to perform efficacy analysis for sanitization using UV. So these can be objectives, okay? But for example, to develop mobile sanitation, the methodology, you may actually want to investigate a few methods, you may be using alcohol, using UV, and using and so on. Understand? So this can be what to call this objective statements, because the way you want to develop the sanitization unit may be a few ways. Okay, for example, to develop let's just look at the first one, to develop a robot mobile phone. It can be developed in so many ways. Either you can buy a ready-made platform and you add additional sensors on it, or you can make your own, or so many ways. Okay, but the goal is what? The goal is to develop more autonomous mobile platform that's able to function in a human environment. Understand? Mani, menjawab tak? Hello?
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, please? Any other questions?
Prof, one quick question regarding your objective juga.
Okay.
Basically, do you have any advice on some of the keywords that shouldn't be used in objective? Ada tak?
Okay. Actually, I do not. I am not an advocate of the use of keywords, because keywords are keywords, and they do not mean. They do not mean what it's supposed to mean if you don't put it in the correct sentence. Okay. For example, you know about develop a list. So it's not about the keyword; it's about the statement. It's about the sentence itself. Okay. So but the sentence must refer to a general goal. It is a goal. It is not part of something. Okay. Muhammad Saleh Ahmad, hi. Can we write some algorithm and the theory of it in chapter 3 in case that we use the algorithms? No, usually the theory is given in chapter 2, but you will have to write the algorithm in chapter 3 because that's your implementation. Okay? Any other questions, please? Ada soalan? Any other questions? Marni? Anas?
Say okay, Prof.
Any other students? Okay, wait. The Chong Ban Ying for the setup for the project should mention setup of the project. I don't understand what you mean setup for the project. Chong Ban Ying, on your microphone and talk to me. Chong Ban Yin? Oh, your microphone has a problem. I don't understand what you mean by setup of the project. You mean the experimental setup? Experimental setup must be in chapter 3. Oh, okay. The choice of sensors. Okay. You see, before you choose different sensors, there must be some analysis, right? And usually it's a reference to what people use, what people have reported, what works, what does not work. So that choice must be in the chapter 2. It's part of the literature review. Why you choose that one? Because usually it is a reason why, right? And usually it's because of what you have read. Unless you say from the literature review, they use ultrasonic, they use LIDAR, you do this and this. You say you want to investigate which is the most suitable one for your project, then you can state it in the chapter 3. Okay, where chapter 3 you said you will investigate which of the type of sensors are most suitable. But the basic introduction to the reader about the sensors must be in chapter 2. Any other questions, please? Any other questions? Marni, ada soalan so macam mana? Okay.
Saya okay.
Okay. Okay. Like this, because I've shown you my. Wait. I'll do the presentation again. So I'll go back up. Okay, you have my email, you have my number. You can WhatsApp me or you can email me with your questions. However, please introduce yourself first because if I do not know who sends me what message, I will not reply. Okay? So you can email me, abdhamid@unimap.edu.my, or my number 012-414-7077. Okay? Marni, saya rasa okay kot.
Prof, we have another question here
Okay, which one? Who has a question?
in the chat room.
There's no question. I think I've answered all. Right? Any other questions? Tak ada kok, Marni. Finish.
Dekat chat room ni ada, Prof.
Tak ada pun. Which one?
Kata for experimental.
Oh, Prof. Experimental. No, not for experiment. For experiments. If it can, if we want to put the condition of specimens before. I don't understand. Marni, dia nak tanya apa ni? Shazwan, are you still around? On your microphone, please, Shazwan. Marni.
Yes.
Saya tak faham soalan dia.
Maybe
What is the question?
Anas, Cicin, can you get the question?
Tengah tengok. I'm not quite sure juga. Probably just to clarify kot, maybe for example, if he wants to do step A, B, and C and D, but then he didn't get the result expected. So should he mention the condition? Should he mention the result? The condition before or in methodology or during chapter 4 kot? Itu yang saya faham lah.
Actually, I don't understand. Is Shazwan around? Because Prof experiment, if we want to put the condition of specimens before and after experiment, I don't understand actually. Are you referring to results that the experiments that works and you get the correct results, or the experiment that does not work and you get the wrong results? There's two things. One, if you do an experiment and the methodology is correct, but the result is not as expected, it failed, you must report. However, if you get the wrong results because your methodology is wrong, then no. Because if your methodology is wrong, then the whole work is has no value. Only report those in which the methodology is correct. Understand? Am I answering you, Shazwan? Any other questions? Any other questions? Mani, ada soalan lain tak? Oh, in my situation, if the simulation method I choose fail to operate as expected and change the way of doing it, should this only method? Okay, if you do an experiment, that's why I say if your methodology is right and you do an experiment but you don't get the results and you try to work around it by changing the experiment, you should report it so that people will not repeat the methodology or the approach you use that did not work. Okay? Chong Ban Ying. Okay. Any other questions, please? Any other questions? Mani? Mani? Okay, good.
Okay.
Okay. So because I dah bagi, because I've already given my email.
Bro.
Yes.
Asrizal here.
Yes, Roy.
Okay, bro. Let's say the student, they have some sort of objectives. But
They have what? Tak dengar. Tak dengar.
Tak dengar, bro.
Repeat.
Okay, bro. Let's say there's student, there's a few objectives.
Okay.
But in the end of the semester,
Okay.
the student just accomplished only one objective. So
Okay.
what do you think about this, Prof?
Okay. This depends. If the student actually perform the experiments as per required, but the objectives is not attained, they must report it. However, for example, they want to do A, B, and C, but during the semester, B and C they cannot do because they cannot buy the equipment, or for example, or the equipment does not function. Then they should discuss with the supervisors such that they rearrange the objectives. Because the objectives, if the student did not do the experiments, the work to achieve those objectives, then those objectives should not be in the report. Understand that? Is that any right?
Okay, bro.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Any other questions, please? Okay.
Yes, Prof. I have a question.
Okay,
For example, if we do the research and we expect to have some better outcome. We expect the outcome. For example, we have two sets of result. We expect
Okay.
these two sets of results to be complementary same. But
Okay.
after we do some experiment, but the
Okay.
result come out is totally different. If like this,
Okay.
what should we do in the discussions and how we should alternate the result?
Okay. One of the main misconception about reporting is you must report something that works. No. That's why I said it has to be. You have to look back at the methodology. If your methodology is correct, but the result is not as expected, you must report it as it is. But you must discuss, because you see during the discussions, if it works, you must discuss why it works. If it does not work, you must discuss why it does not work. Understand? However, if your methodology is wrong, then you cannot report any of it. Chichin, okay?
Okay, Prof.
Okay. Any other questions, please? Any questions? Okay, kalau tak ada soalan lagi, if there's no other questions, you can still email me, you can still WhatsApp me with your questions. Dr. Mani, I will end this session, okay?
Okay, Prof. Okay, thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you
Okay,
so much, Prof.
Assalamualaikum. Selamat Raya Moral.
Ayah, Prof.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.